welcome back to my channel. I'm Becky from RJF Makes, and if you're watching me today, you'll be wanting to make the Keep It Together bag. We are on sew along number 3 of part 1 pattern. Now that's over and done with. Can you let me know if you can see me, you can hear me? Put in the comments where you're from. I know we got someone from Florida. I can just barely see the comments on my screen here. So I know we've got someone from Florida. I am going to bring up the stuff on my mobile phone so I can see any questions that appear. Right, so I've come in early because there's a few things I want to say before we get into sewing. So first of all, I want to apologise for not being able to do the live last week. Last week I had to have an emergency hospital appointment. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I've come to terms with it. Right, so basically, hi Princess. Let me just bring up this. Yeah, I can see it now. Oh, we've got a few watching. Right, so yeah, so last week I had a hospital appointment and just so much going on after the hospital appointment, and yeah, so I couldn't do the live last week. However, this week is my last live for this month, having to do a few more hospital appointments next week, and then I'm on Sewing Street the following week. So let's talk about those first. First of all, the hospital's going to have to come first. I've got an illness that's taken over my body and we are having to have treatment. So I'm going to be doing the YouTube lives in between my hospital appointments. So the next YouTube live will be at the start of next month. And then same with in December. I'm only being able to manage one in November and one in December, unfortunately. However, by December we will have this whole bag complete and the innards as well. So trust me, I will get it completed by the end of the year for you, and I do apologise, but my health has to come first. Right, so then I have Sewing Street, which is my second job. It's what pays me the rent for this place. So I have to plough in quite a lot of energy into the makes coming up on Sewing Street. Now I am going to show you what's coming up on Sewing Street this October show. Right, so if you are new to my channel, please click the subscribe button if you like this content, and if you want to follow me, give me a thumbs up and drop in the comments. Basically, yeah, be kind always. Yeah, I'm okay. It's been a bit of a culture shock. Princess knows my situation. All my admin from Facebook know my situation. Yeah, I haven't even cut mine out yet. That's fine. It's a long-winded bag, unfortunately. Right, okay, so however, saying that though, you have got so many techniques in this bag, in this pattern. You can learn a lot for future bags that you make, or even like some of the binding. Now the binding technique that I'm going to show you today is going to save you a lot of process. It's going to save you hand work. It's going to save you a lot of process. Right, so going back, I'm all over the place at the moment. My head's... Right, so going back, Sewing Street. I'm back on Sewing Street, which is a TV channel in the UK. It's a shopping TV channel, obviously in the name Sewing Street, so it's all sewing. I'm back on the 28th of October. I'm thinking, what day am I at the hotel? 27th? Yay, hotel, don't have to cook. So I'm back at the hotel on the 27th, and then back in on the 28th in the studio. Now the first bag pattern that I'm bringing is called the Bock Field bag. Now if you have made the Park Lane bag, the Wesley Tote bag, or the Applebrook, they are all named after streets and landmarks within my town. And the Bock Field bag, which I'm going to reveal in a minute via the pattern, not the sample because I haven't made the sample yet, is actually a road by where I have grown up, and most of my best friends lived in this road. So this is the Bock Field bag. It's a small rectangle shaped bag with a slip pocket, a zip pocket at the front with a nice curved actual pocket. And then I was going to turn this round, but no, it's not the bag. On the back there's a slip pocket, and then inside there's a compartment with an inside zip pocket. Now this is being launched on Sewing Street. However, I don't know when I'll be releasing it. We haven't signed over a contract yet. Unfortunately, they get exclusive for it. However, I can release the digital content at least 2 weeks after my appearance. So that one is that is one of the patterns. Now I'm going to just go backtrack 20 years ago, 15 years ago. So, well, no, let's backtrack to when I first started sewing. I started sewing when I was 8. The first thing my mum actually taught me was to hand sew. When I was 11, my mum and dad bought me my very first sewing machine, which was a hand crank sewing machine. Still got it, love that machine. However, my mum only knew to teach the basics, so she taught me patchwork. Quilting has been a massive thing since I was the age of 11. And recently, when I say recently, the last 10 years, I used to work in a sewing shop just down the road. And I used to work on the long arm and teach the quilt classes, and as well as the bag making classes. So Sewing Street have asked me what else I can produce. So I'm actually bringing my first ever, other than teaching online classes and in-class quilt patterns. So I'm bringing a quilt pattern. So it's called the Granny Square No Yarn Needed quilt. I'm so sorry, that's a tongue twister. However, this is the quilt. I'm sorry about the lighting. I'm hoping you can cover the lighting. However, the pattern is broken down into blocks because I know for beginners it is proper scary when you're picking up a big quilt. So I'm actually going to teach you old traditional quilting because I love my traditional blocks. And I'm going to be teaching blocks on Sewing Street as well from the pattern. So those are the 2 up and coming patterns. There is more coming. However, I can't tell you what those are yet. Princess knows one of them that I've just been chatting to her about. Right, okay, so anybody watching this video or before on the live or after the live, there is a discount code leading up until the end of the month. Now the discount code is YouTube. The Y and the T are capitals. So as you see YouTube on written down somewhere, it's exactly the same as the code. And then you'll need 15 at the end. So it's YouTube 15 to get 15% off the shop. That's excluding gift vouchers as well as Fred Gang sign up membership. Now it's ideal if you need your zips or if you need Velcro or anything, pattern, the digital download or the paper pattern. I do the paper pattern, guys. I know I've sold a lot of the digital download for this bag because I think it's because of YouTube. But however, it's use that 15%. I'm going to keep bringing it up every so often in the conversation today because people kept emailing me what's the YouTube code. So I'm going to just keep bringing it up so you guys can hear it. Last thing is, I've talked about, obviously I've got an illness and the hospital are trying their hardest to sort it out. Well, I hope they do. So the YouTube lives are going to go once a month at the moment while I'm having all the treatments. Right, okay, so today we are going into doing the bias binding. So I've already done the bias binding on the one side because obviously I want to teach you how to do the handle keeper as well today. So last week over on Facebook, if you're not a member of Facebook, the video is on here as well. On my channel is how to make bias binding. Now I've gone through both of the patterns and calculated up the length that I need of bias binding. I know in this pattern it calls for bias binding on, say, the bag. It needs to be 2 inches wide, but however the bias binding on the single page, which is the next section of this bag, it needs to be 2.5 or 2.25. And then the following pattern, I think it calls for 2.5. So I've actually just gone ahead and done 2.5-inch wide strips, because it's just going to save me time if I can just have one session and making one complete amount of bias binding. Now, believe it or not, with this bit here that's attached and this bit, that was 1/2 meter of fabric. If you follow my instructions on the YouTube video that is I've designed to show you how I make bias binding, you can easily get this amount for all the projects, for both of the patterns, the correct amount that you actually physically need. Right, so today all I'm going to show you is the bias binding and the handle keeper. Now, the handle keeper is the bit that holds the two handles together, and I'm going to show you using cam snaps. So I'm going to be using this tool. Looks like a contraption. It looks like it's going to pull your teeth out. And then obviously cam snaps. So that's these here. Now, cam snaps are quite easy to implement. All you have to do is poke some holes, put the correct components in on each side, use the pliers that I just showed you, these, squeeze it, and the plastic breaks, but it splits and it holds everything into place. Now, I have demonstrated on YouTube on the Sewing Street channel back in the day in December how to do the Velcro. So there is a Velcro option. I'm going to quickly talk you through that today. I'm not going to redo it. I'm just going to go straight into doing the cam snaps. However, I will talk you through a little bit of what measurements to use for the actual Velcro if you're using Velcro as your handle keeper. Torture device. It is. Pulling teeth out is a torture device. I hate dentists. If I can get away with it, I won't go, but I know you have to go every 6 months to at least have a checkup. So I will go to that. Gritting my teeth. Okay, so the binding. I'm going to talk you through how I have taught Thread Gang. Now, I did promise Thread Gang I will keep it in Thread Gang, but however, I have actually spoken to them. They have given me permission to let you guys know how I will quickly do bias binding, because this is quite thick. When you've sewn it together, especially where you've got that little binding bit, that binding strip on each side, it's quite thick there. And some people are saying they're really struggling sewing over that. So my trick today is going to be using white glue. So it's fabric white glue. I sell this in the shop. It's pretty cheap. It's about £3 or something. I don't know. I don't keep an eye on the prices. That's my husband's job. So I keep this in the shop. However, any white fabric glue, you need white fabric glue, because you're going to have a damp cloth close to you, just in case you get a bit on your iron. Yes, we are going to use an iron at the same process. Trust the process, guys. Trust the process. If you get it on your iron, quick damp cloth, wipe it off. It doesn't stain your iron or whatsoever. Now, some people won't have this. They'll have this, which is a see-through glue, beacon tack or fabric tack or whatever you want to call it. Don't use this. That is lethal stuff for your iron. So please just get a white glue. It can be PVA glue, it can be slightly watered down PVA glue, or best to use a fabric glue, because we are going to set it. So we are going to sew on the binding first with the machine. However, some people haven't got time to fold it over and hand sew all the way around. So this is where this comes in effect. If you have got time, you don't need to do this. Just hand sew it like a quilt binding. But this will give you a tighter finish than quilt binding. And for hand sewing it. Right, let me get rid of my notes. Right, so I'm going to jump into the overhead camera. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll try and answer them, and hopefully my machine will work. Right, let me just turn that off and that. Right, okay, so we are going to do the binding around here. Let me just take my coat off. Well, my fleece. Okay, so we are going to do this binding going around here today. And as you can see, I have basically glued it on just to show you that gluing is okay to do. It doesn't stain, doesn't mark. And if you do get it on your fabric, this white glue, if you get that damp cloth, you can wipe it off while it's still wet. So you're going to make your binding first. So the way I want you to make your binding is in your strips as that video teaches you, and then basically we're going to fold it and double fold it. So first of all, you give it a good press, wrong side to wrong side, and fold it in the center, bringing the two long edges together, and give the whole strip a good press. Now if you've got a binding tool, go ahead, use the binding tool. It'll save you a lot of time, especially if you've got that Simplicity binding machine with the little iron. It will iron it for you. And then you're going to open it up and then bring the two long edges into the center and give that a really good press. Then you're going to just basically, once you've given it a good press, I personally then turn it over so I've got the right side, so my wrong side are where the two bits meet in the middle. I turn it over and give it one complete steam press, and then it stays perfectly neat. Now sometimes it has a habit, if you don't do that second press, it has a habit of popping open eventually, so just give it that second steam press. Right, so let's attach this binding. So first of all, you're going to get your handle and pop that up inside there and out the way. You're going to bring this into the center so it doesn't get caught on your sewing machine. And then you're going to get one end, the short end of your actual binding, and you're going to open it up like so, and you're just going to fold the short end over to the bottom edge, and you're going to either give that a good finger press, which I'm going to do, or you're going to press it with your iron. I cut my nails earlier on, so I'm hoping I can finger press it. There you go. Then you're going to close back up the folds. So you've got a nice little finished neat edge there. That's what you need it for. Okay. You're going to pop this right side facing down. We're going to start off at the bottom, and we're going to open up this part of the binding here, and we're going to go all the way around and clip. So when it comes to the corners, you are going to pull it slightly, and that will give you a bit of a tighter finish. And yes, I am going from this side, and that's the reason why I said the glue is going to be your best option. So I'm pulling it with my fingers, going around this corner. I'm going to pop a few clips in this corner. Now if you don't want to use the glue, you will implement this from this side, and then once we come to bring the actual binding over and fold it over the raw seam, you can actually hand sew it and it attached to this side of the bag. It's whichever way is comfortable to you. Now I will be opening up this bag so it goes easier under my sewing machine. Talking about my sewing machine, I've got a size 16 needle in. I've got a walking foot on my sewing machine, and I will use a stitch length of a size number 3. Right, so I'm just going to carry on clipping all the way around. Make sure you've got loads of clips. Somebody asked me in Fred's Gang recently, when it comes to binding, and I don't know if many of you know the staple trick, so using the stapler for when you're putting bases in, can you use staples for binding? My answer is yes. However, you've got to make sure it's nowhere where you're going to sew. And B, you're going to make sure this lies flat where the crease is, because we'll be sewing in that crease and you don't want any creases appearing on your actual bag. So just bear that in mind. Or you can do, if it's not a bulky seam here, which we have got, but on another bag, if you've got no bulky seam, you can tack sew it into place. So you can use some tailor's tack, which is like a really strong cotton, however it snaps when you pull it. So you can use some tailor's tack as well. One person also asked me, can they use this stuff to stop having to use clips? Yes, you can. So this is quilter's tape. You can run quilter's tape all the way around and then stick this into place if you want to, but you've got to bear in mind you've already got some bulk already on this. So if your machine cannot cope with too much bulk, just try your hardest not to do the actual quilter's tape. Sorry if I keep coughing, I've got a bit of sniffles, so apologise for that. Right, so I'm just pulling it a little, I'm only pulling it a little just to go around those corners. And I pop a few clips in the corners. Don't know if you've already noticed that bit. Turn that around. Right, so mine's just come unfolded. I'm just going to pop that clip on that fold there. I'm going to bring this round here. And I'm going to overlap this bottom layer here. So I'm just going to pop another clip here and bring this over to about there. So I've gone over about 2 inches from where that fold edge is there. So I'm going to now snip this bit off. And then this excess binding is going to be for all the other part components that is inside the bag for the later sew-alongs. Right, okay, so you see this fold here. So if I zoom in, whee. Right, if you see this fold here, starting off round about here, reverse your stitch. You're going to sew all the way along that ditch. Now, the seam allowance of this bag is 1/4 inch, and someone does say this isn't 1/4 inch. Correct. The only reason why we use 1/4 inch to sew the bag together is just we have that leeway and that extra bit if we need to go and cut some of the bag away. But now we're adding the binding, we're happy with how the bag looks. We are going to sew, and this will be around about 3/8 of an inch away. Now personally, my binding is a tad bit bigger because I've cheated. I've made quite a lot of the binding. Where's my tailor's all? There it is. So I'm actually just going to sew about 1/16 of a way, 1/12 of a way away from the actual crease. So if you do what I have done on the binding and cheated, where I have said I've calculated up the widths and the lengths and just made one complete bit, you will have bigger binding for certain projects. So I know I've got a bit wider binding for this certain project, for this certain part of the bag. So I'm now going to sew about there, going forward all the way around. Then that will mean that I've got the same distance as what you will get if you did a 2-inch binding. Right, so I'm going to reverse my stitch here, go all the way around. Let me zoom out. Hey. I'm going to go all the way around, and I'm going to come back and then finish over here. So I'm going to go over this bit twice. Now, one thing I am going to do is open up my zipper of the bag. Oh, clip just popped off. that will happen. You might get some breakage of zips, of some clips, shall I say. Okay, so when I've got it under my sewing machine, you will see me opening it up like this and resting, pushing it underneath, because I'm going to sew from this side. However, you'll see all that happen on the actual camera over here, and I have zoomed out a bit on that other camera. So let me go over to that camera. Right, so I've still got my bag closed, kind of, and then I'm going to open it up as I go along. Right, so I'm going to get it underneath my foot. It does go under, guys. It's just because I've got this bit here. There you go. Right, okay, so if you know your machines cannot go over those bulky areas, don't sew over them. I'm going to see how far I can get. If my machine doesn't like it, it won't like it. Let me just go past that bit. I don't want to break this walking foot. I'm going to cut some of this off, actually. Just cutting some of this leader off and start a bit further along. That's better. It won't be underneath my walking foot then. There you go. Right, okay, so using the stitch length number 3, okay, you're going to keep getting your hand underneath. I can show you here, but from this side I'll be doing it, from this side of the actual bed. I'm going to be pushing underneath as I go along to make sure everything is out the way. Right, so make sure you'll reverse your stitch. And make sure your needle is down when you stop. And I'm doing little bit by little bit. Right, so I'm coming up to where that bulky bit is. So I'm going to see how my machine copes. If it starts throwing a hickey fit, I'm just going to stop, reverse my stitch, and then go back and go back over that with the glue. Hand cranking's fine. No, so I'm going to stop at that point. I'm going to stop at that point and move along and then go back with my glue. Had to do this with the other side. So get that back underneath. Gone past that bit. Making sure it's nice and flat underneath. There you go. Now you can open up this bit. As you can see, I'm opening it up a bit to get it nice and flat underneath my machine. Got a bit of a kink. There you go. Keep feeling underneath to make sure it's nice and flat. Just going over where the zip is, so I'm just taking it a bit slower. Nice and neat underneath, flat as well, that's what you want it to be. Open up this a bit more, so I've opened it up completely, so I've got more wiggle room around this area. Make sure that zip's not getting caught. Just realised I haven't got it on stitch length number 3, so just knocked it up to stitch length number 3. It was a couple of millimetres out. Tuck it underneath, out of the way. Just going a bit slower where that zip is. When I say the zip, I mean like the zip pocket. It's got a few extra bulky layers there. Okay, so I'm going to now refold the bag back underneath and start flattening it out this way. Yeah, the bag will be a bit misshaped, that's fine. You can iron it afterwards because you use quilter's weight cotton fabric. Now coming to where that other bulky seam is, I'm going to go slightly up to it and stop, reverse my stitch, and then jump that part and then move over to the next part. And like I say, I can go with the glue on that, that's fine. That's not going to be any biggie for me. Got a little chubby hand, not wanting to go under. There you go. Oops. Not gone past that bit. There you go. Right, okay, so I've sewed it as much as I can. Okay, let me just get rid of these clips. I need those. Could you hand stitch that bulky area? Yes, you can. I'm going to show you the glue technique though if you want me to. You can hand stitch that area. As you can see, I've got quite a bit here that is missing, so I'm going to glue that into place now. And the same with here. So, but as you can see, this part is the main bit. That's the bulkiest part of this complete whole bag finished with, and we can do the gluing. Now you need to turn on your iron. I'm just going to turn my iron on. I've got my small iron, knowing full well that we're going around little corners and stuff like that. Hope you don't mind. I'm just going to take a drink, guys. I think I got my husband's cold coming. I blame Michael. Michael's my husband, guys. Right, okay, so I've opened up the bag. As you can see, I've got this side here. I've never used the walking foot yet. I think it'll be out now. Right, so fabric glue. I use this brand because I stock this brand, but any white fabric glue is needed. A damp cloth, which I haven't got, so I'm just going to run over to my sink and get a damp cloth. Okay, so you got a damp cloth. Doesn't have to be wringing wet, it just has to be damp. Okay, so where these corners are lifted off and not sewn, all I'm going to do is pop a little bit of glue. You don't want too much. Let that go a bit tacky. And then bring this over and stick that down. Hold it with your fingers. If you've got leakage of glue, now if I zoom in. If you've got a bit of leakage of glue, just get your damp cloth and get rid of that. And then you're just going to get the tip of the iron and press that down. And then you're going to do this side as well. This glue, once you've set it with an iron, it actually doesn't come apart. So you don't need that much, to be fair. Bring that over. And stick that down. Hold it with my fingers and thumbs. Get the iron and set that. So I'm going to now close up the bag. Let me zoom out again. Hey. I'm going to now close up the bag. And bring that handle out. Now I'm going to start bringing this over and giving it a press all the way around first, so I've got it into place. So I'm hoping you guys can see this. I'm not going to do all the bag because obviously it will take me forever. I'm just going to show you the little bits that you need to know. Okay, so you're going to go round and do that for the whole bag, even the corners. So I'll just do this side of the bag. Okay. The reason why we're doing that is because it helps with the memory of the binding for when we have to put the glue into place. Now if you are hand sewing, all you would do is do a little whip stitch, picking up a bit of this fabric here and the binding fabric, making sure you stitch past your stitch line. Now, yeah, it's pretty easy. The glue has been a lifesaver for some people in my club. Right, so with the glue, you don't need much. You're only going to glue on this part of the seam. You're not gluing anywhere near this part of the bag. You're just gluing this part here. So you're just going to dab along that part there, and if it doesn't look enough, rub it in a bit and add a little bit more. So in certain areas you might need a little bit more, like so. I can't squeeze these bottles very well, so I always have to do two. You're going to pull the binding over, and the folded part of the binding is just going to sit just past that stitches, just a little. Okay, and you're going to just do that all the way along to where you've glued it to. So that. And there. Now this is where the iron comes in handy. It's going to set this into place and hold it so for when you go and glue the rest of it. So I say don't glue more than 4 inches at a time. So that's stuck into place now, that bit there. And that will stick for life. You can do this inside bags as well, guys. If you're finding that curve that is on that particular bag is very odd to go round. So that's all glue is dry, and I can't peel this back. If you want to, you can go ahead and do a hand stitch on top of the glue if you want to. It's totally up to you. And just give that a little bit of a glue push down. Get some more glue from where you left off, I'm just going to dig in a bit. Bring this over, stick it into place, hold it down with your fingers, stick that into place, hold it down with your fingers, and press with the iron. I've got a bit of glue coming out there, so to stop it from going on my iron, get the damp piece of your cloth, wipe a little bit off, and then just go back into that and press. Right, so once you've done all the gluing, you're going to come to this bit at the start where the fold is over bits is. Okay, so just refold that bit there, so make it nice and neat. That's that bit where we did the folding over at an angle. You're going to stick the bottom layer first to the bag. So you're going to go along and iron this into place first, like so. And then you're going to bring that over and iron that into place. If you're finding that bit is a bit bigger than this bit, which mine is, you can just cut that off at a little bit of an angle, but just make sure it's not going to be seen from this part here and there's no raw edges. Then you can bring that over and give that bit of a press. Tuck that in if you need to. I think I'm going to have to tuck mine in a little. Okay, there you go. Tuck it in. Pop some glue up inside this bit here, so stick that to this bit here. Fold that over, and then you can run some glue on the seam and press this into place. So I'm just going to do this corner and this bit here to show you how to finish off the seam. So I've got two there. And then I'm going to open the bag up and I'll show you something else that you need to do if you're doing this method. Okay, I'm just going to rejig this folding because I wasn't happy with that. And as this is my bag, I've made this for me. That's better. Just give that a press. And then all I'm going to do is I've glued up to that bit there. Just run some glue. Oh. There you go. Run some glue right up into that that bit where I left off. Run some glue up to there. Pop some glue inside that seam there. It's an easier way. It's gonna basically, I have arthritis quite bad in my hands, especially this time of the year. It really kicks in, and in my knees. So if you can't grip a sewing needle on those days where you are having really bad arthritis, the glue is going to come your best friend. Now, just ignore those loose pieces of thread. You're going to go round eventually and snip all those off. Right, so once you've gone around and glued all of this, pretend this is all into place. You're going to open up the bag, flip it over, put the handle flat. You're going to get your hand inside and push this barrier, this actual gusset up, and just run the iron along that binding. It will give you the structure that you need it to be when you are basically gluing it when you come to close up the bag. So it's making that stick now rather than I crushed it down. So you're just going to do that all the way around. So I'll just do a bit more. This iron is only on medium heat, so I can get my hand quite close to that iron. And you're going to do that for both edges, so this binding as well as this binding. And you're just going to go all the way around and finish off your binding that way. And then once you've done that, if you've got a crease like that, if you just pull it slightly, spritz some water on this and put some steam on, that will shrink it. Should shrink it. If not, you can pull it out, make it look neat, give it a press like this, and then the glue, stick that underneath. Glue hides a multiple of sins. There you go. So you can have a nice neat finish, and as you can see, it's quite neat there. That's how I would do the binding if you are really struggling with the binding. Right, so I'm now going to move on to the handle keeper. Bearing in mind I would have done the whole of the binding, so just ignore that the whole binding isn't done. It will look like this. Let me just turn this off. It does take you a bit of time doing the binding this way, but it's going to save your hands. It's going to save you having blisters and stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to work on the handle keeper. The handle keeper is what holds these two together. The first thing I'm going to do is choose which is going to be my back of my bag, which is going to be the tiger anyway for me. So the back of the bag, just going to fold this handle. So as you can see, I've got the handle like this. I've got my U shape. Just going to pinch the handle in the centre and work out where my centre is. I'm going to do it this way so I can judge that out. So I'm going to mark there with a friction pen. Okay. Whenever I can get this friction pen to actually work. There you go. So I've marked that centre. I'm just going to keep it folded and mark the other side, like so. Now, some of you are going to use webbing on this. The next step you can do, I can do it, I think, on my sewing machine. What we need to do is roll this handle and sew it just slightly so it stays rolled. So folding it over, so I'm classing this inside bit here, not this bit here, this bit here, the wrong edge. Bringing the wrong edges together, matching up those two marks on either side. I'm just going to pop a clip there. And I'm just going to sew approximately 1 inch between, half an inch from that centre and half an inch there. It's just so I've got a place to know where I'm going to pop the handle keeper into position. So if I go over to the other camera, move that. I'm going to sew this into place, move that clip. And I'm going to sew just where the sew lines already are, so where the actual two sew lines are. I'm just going to pop a few more clips in to hold it into position a bit more. you got to bear in mind that orange clip. That orange clip is actually my centre. My centre's right in the dead centre. So I'm probably going to start round about here, once I've got it underneath my sewing machine, and finish round about here. Reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. I'm going to use a long stitch length. It doesn't have to be big. I might have to open up my bag a bit just so I can get it underneath my sewing machine. And I'm only sewing where the line top stitching is from previously. I'm going to lower my needle down. So I'm knocking it up to a stitch length number 4. Move that orange clip. Okay. Oh. I'm reversing the stitch just a few times, and I'm only doing about an inch of sewing just to hold it all into place. So that's all I've sewn, is between there, and that is where my centre line was. Okay, let's just go back to the overhead. So you should have a handle that looks a bit like that. It looks a bit weird at the moment. Don't worry, it's because we just need a flat area for this, and you're going to do that for the webbing as well as the what's it called, if you made your own handles. Okay, so you need to pin your handle keepers. Now your handle keepers will need some interfacing on the back of the wrong sides. You're going to put those right sides together, and you're going to pin this into place. Okay, so you're going to need a quarters rule and some marking tools. And in the 4 corners, let me zoom in a bit. Oh, camera's a bit shaky there, sorry. In the 4 corners, you're going to need to draw a square of 1/2 inch. Just undo that pin a bit. My corners weren't meeting up, so I'll just re-pinned it again. It was just in that one corner. Okay. Afternoon, low. Right, so I've done the actual 4 corners, and then you're going to find something in your sewing room that's curved. So I'm going to use the glue. So I've got a nice curvature on here, this bit here. And from this marking here to this marking, you're going to pop this on top, match up, and you're going to draw around. Now I'm quite far away from this, so I'm just hoping I can do this neatly. Nope. I have to really, right, this table's massive, and where the camera lands, I have to really lean over the actual table. That's better. So you're going to curve around all 4 corners. So I can do that on this side. So with this one. Okay. And then you're going to trim right on those actual markings. So you could do with that with a rotary cutter. But I haven't got a rotary cutting mat underneath this, so I don't want to cut into the table. Right, so using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to sew all the way around, apart from where you're going to leave a turning gap on the side of approximately about 2 inches. So I've just drawn 2 markers here to just basically tell me when to stop and start. So I'm going to stop here and start here. I'm going to go 1/4 inch all the way around, reverse my stitch at the start and at the end, and then I'm not going to sew in this part here. Okay, this camera. Use a stitch length, a standard stitch length. So on this sewing machine it's a 2.2. So I'm going to go down to a 2.2. So remember, it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. And as you're going around that corner, lift up this part here of your presser foot. Make sure your needle is down when you do that. Having a shorter stitch length when you go around a corner means that you can actually get a neater corner, guys. That's just a hint for anybody that says my corners don't look that neat. Just lower the stitch length a little bit. And just do a few stitches at a time, going around those corners, but make sure your needle is down whenever you have to lift up the presser foot. Right, so I'm coming to the end marking, reverse your stitch. So you can use pinking shears for this next part, or you can trim it back like I'm going to. So I'm going to trim it back to around about just under 1/8 of an inch away from that sewn line. However, I'm not going to trim this part back. I'm going to leave that full. So I'm going to start off at an angle, trim just under 1/8 of an inch away from the sewn line. We are going to turn this right side facing out, give it a press and top stitch anyway, so you're not really going to be causing too much of a damage if you are cutting like I am. Oh, I can't get my words out today. It's like, I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. In my admin group, we have a right laugh. Well, no, let me put this correct. Princess will answer this. They have a right laugh at me. I can't get my words out at the moment because of the amount of medication that I'm on. So, or is that just permanently Princess? Right, so I'm going to go into this little pocket here and turn it right side out. I've got a little chopstick from Wagamama's, my favourite place to eat out at. I always take the chopsticks away with me. And turn that right side facing out. Give it a good push out in those corners. Right guys, don't forget there is discount code of YouTube 15, so that's the Y and the T in YouTube, has got a capital, and basically it's YouTube 15 to get 15% off the discount on the shop, and that's rjfmakes.com. Right, okay, so I'm just going to push out that corner bit there. And that bit. I can be here all day doing this if I wanted to. I do not know what you mean. We laugh at each other. We do. We do like a bit of a banter, don't we? Yeah, Princess, we do. We have a right barrel of laughs in our admin. Even over on Fred's Gang Club. Right, so I'm just going to give this a really good press. So let's turn this iron up. What I've done is where that turning gap is, I've poked the seams up inside. And I'm just going to give that a nice little press. If you've got steam in your iron, steam will work as well. Okay, and then just roll the seams as you go along before you press it. Okay, and then just give this a one complete overall press. On both sides. Okay, so I'm going to now top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge all the way around. I'm going to top stitch this close, then I won't have to whip stitch it. If you want to, you can go ahead and whip stitch it close or ladder stitch it. It's totally up to you. However, I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, which means that it will close it anyway. When you actually top stitch, just make sure you reverse it a few times at the start and at the end, obviously. I am going to knock my stitch length up to a number 3. Low, if you're still watching, yes, I still say number 3, as in F-R-E-E. Free and thread are my worst nemesis, and I actually work with them quite a lot. So when I come to those corners, because I'm using a longer stitch length, I'm just going to do one stitch at a time and lift up the presser foot as I go around those corners. Slightly off there, but it doesn't matter. And then if you've got any bird's nests at the back, just basically sort them out. Right, where are we? There. Let's zoom out now for you guys. Oh, don't want to see the fibres. There you go. Right, okay, so you've got your bag. I'm going to open it up. So I'm just working on the handle that I've sewn. Remember, I've sewn it here. That's where the handle keeper is going to go. Okay, so work out which is your favourite side. I want this side where the bird's nest isn't on the front, on the outer. So I'm going to flip this over and pop this underneath. Okay, so when the bag is closed, this is my front of the actual this is the front of the handle keeper where you're going to see the 2 studs that I'm going to implement. This is the back of the handle keeper. Now this is the piece that wraps around this handle. Once we've grabbed this handle from the front, you bring that over and this back piece rolls over to there to hold the handles into position and snips, clasps into place, like clicks into place, shall I say. So from this part here to that part, you need about 1.5 inches, approx. I say approx because it varies on the thickness of the webbing. So if you aim for between 1 and 1.5, you're on the right track. So I've got 1.5. I'm now going to pin. Now I'm going to bear in mind, and I'm going to stress to you that your pin will bend, because obviously this is quite thick. So I wouldn't really use a strong pin. Also, another thing is that marking that you did on the handle, make sure it's kind of in the center of the actual handle keeper, which mine is close to the center. So let's find a pin that I've already bent, because I don't want to bend anymore. Come here, Fred. Oh, I think I've chucked them all out. So I'm just going to pin this into place, make sure it's quite straight. And like I say, you are going to bend this pin. That's why I like these long pins, because I can bend it. Right, okay, so I am now going to sew a square all the way around. So I'm going to sew a square around about that inch. So where we actually sewed on the handle, where we folded it together, you're just going to do about that length. So I'm going to draw mine on so you know how big of the box that I'm going to be doing. So my center is here. Let me just draw that on. My center is there. Shall I zoom in? Okay, my center is there. I'm going to measure 1/2 inch outwards. And then from that center mark all the way across to this way towards me, I'm going to measure another 1/2 inch. Okay, I'm going to re-sew on top of that top stitching and about 1/8 inch away from that fold. That's all I'm going to sew, is that square. I'm not going to do an X, it's not needed. It's only the handle keeper, guys. It's just so these handles don't flop around when you're carrying it. So I'm just going to sew all the way around, reverse my stitch at starting at the end. I'm going to reverse my stitch on this area here rather than this area, because there's already a bit of bulk there, I have heard. Oh, you're talking about PCs. I'll let you guys talk about PCs. I do not understand PCs. Okay, so I'm going to use a stitch length number 4 as well. And I am going to sew it from this side. So you will get a little bit of a bird's nest this side. So if you don't want to reverse it, you don't have to. What you might want to do is have 2 long thread pieces at the start and at the end. Pull the thread through and tie it off. Personally, I don't mind the overlapping, the reversing of the stitch. I then personally know it's secure. Right, okay, so over to the sewing machine. Get that underneath my foot. I'm going to move that pin once I've got my needle and done a few stitches. Okay, so knock my stitch length up to a stitch length 4. Going to do at least 2 stitches, but making sure I'm nowhere near that needle. 1, 2, reverse my stitch. Remove that needle. Oh no. Oh no. I'll show you what happened. I'm gone. Where's my pliers? Oh no. Where are my pliers? Okay, so what has happened is the head of my pin has just come off. So I need to get that pin out before I go anywhere further. And I've cut my it's not been my week. These are old sewing needles, guys, so don't stress. I know where the pliers are. They're in the other room. We're fixing a cupboard at the moment. Come in. My advice is to keep some pliers close to your sewing machine. I normally do for pieces of hardware for bag making. However, I needed them for this cupboard to get this bolt out. Just come in. There you go, got it out. Whatever you do, don't sew if it happens to happen to you. Do not sew, get that needle out. Right. Okay, so I'm going to sew this into place. Twist this round. Now I haven't got a big enough throat space for this, so I'm going to twist it round and reverse my stitch. Yes guys, I'm going to reverse my stitch and hope for the best that I go nice and neat in a line. Then I'm going to twist this round. Drop my foot. Twist this back. And sew the last bit. If it wasn't for that needle, that would have been a lot easier. Right, let's zoom out. Okay, so I've sewn all the way around that square. I'm going to get rid of those markings in a minute. I'm just going to cut off any loose pieces of thread. If you are joining me and you're seeing that the binding's not finished, if you rewind back this video, you'll be able to see how I implement the binding. I've just haven't got time to do it all in this video today because the kids will be here soon. Right, okay, so I'm just going to get rid of that marking. Okay, so I've got rid of my pen markings. That's all I wanted to do because there is no point of carrying on with those pen markings in place. Right, okay, so if you are using Velcro, which I do state that you can, you just need around about an inch worth of Velcro. When I say Velcro, I mean hook and eye, and that's the hook and the loop. So you will put the hook on this side here. So this is the wrong side of the strap keeper and the top part. So you will basically just stick it round about here, and that's around about a quarter of an inch away from this edge here. And then you will fold this over, and this is the right side of the bottom bit of the handle keeper, and then you will put that other inch worth of Velcro that you've got left, which is the loop part, onto this part here, about a quarter of an inch away from this edge, but you've got to make sure it's on the right side of the handle keeper. So the hook side of the Velcro, or the hook and loop, depending on what manufacturer you're using, will go on the wrong side of the actual handle keeper, and then the loop part of the fastening will go on the right side. So that's once you've folded it over here. I'm going to use cam snaps, so I'm just going to close up this bag. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that inside there. It will naturally fold. When you go and carry this everywhere, this will naturally fold. If you feel that you want to sew, just find the center, like we did on the back handle piece. Find the center, mark the two edges, bring them together, like so. and then just sew from here to here and then just back stitch a few times. I personally don't mind it because it does naturally, eventually, this will get a bit softer, if you understand where I'm coming from. So you're just going to pop that inside, roll that over, and roll that over, and just make sure you're happy with where that is positioned before we go any further. Okay, while I've got it folded, I'm going to kind of work out where I want my cam snaps to fall. So with the cam snaps, it's the opposite to what I've just explained for the hook and eye. So the one set of cam snaps will be installed the right side of the top piece. So this is the top part of the handle keeper. Once we've rolled that over, that's your top part. Then the other part of the cam snaps will be on the other right side of the handle keeper at the bottom. So let me just pop that into place like so. I did have that nice and neat. Okay, so I've folded that over how I think it should go. I've overlapped it by about 1/3 of an inch. So this is overlapped about 3/4 of an inch. It could be an inch. What you're going to work out is where you want the two cam snaps to fall. So the width of this is 2¼ inches. So that's from there to there. So if I say I want one of my cam snaps to be, and if you want to use these measurements, go ahead. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5/8, and I'm going to drop a mark. And then I'm going to count 5/8 from this side. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8. There. Okay, and then make sure you're 1/2 inch away from this edge here where you've drawn your marks. Yeah. So you're 1/2 inch away from this edge and 5/8 away from this edge. You're going to open all this up now. So where those two marks are, you're going to get your tailor's awl and you're going to poke 2 holes. So where those marks are, you're going to poke 2 holes. Now I have got a YouTube video on how to implement cam snaps. So if you want a really close-up video and an in-depth video, please refer back to that. Okay, so I've got 2 holes there. Now cam snaps come in different compartments and components. Let me just find all the components. So this is a set of cam snaps. You've got 2 what we call thumbtacks, which have got a little spike on and they've got a flat side. And then you've got 2 other components. One's got a sticky outie, like so, it sticks out in the centre. And then one's got a sticky innie, like a belly button. That bit does stick out at the back, just ignore that. You want the curved edge. So this bit that sticks out is classed as the top, the closure, the actual, when you get some press studs, you've got a little dimple. That's what this part is classed. So that's the first bit I'm going to implement onto the actual bag. Then this part is the bit where this snaps into. So that's the last bit we will implement. Per each little piece you'll need a little thumbtack. So I'm just going to pop this bit to one side. So I've got the male part of the actual snap, and that's the sticky out bit. So I've got this thumbtack bit here. You're going to pop, so this is the right side of the tab, oh sorry, this is the right side of the handle now. Where you've made one of those holes, you're going to get the thumbtack, pop your thumb on the actual flat bit and push that pin through to the other side. So the pin should come through to the wrong side. Then you're going to get the male part of the actual snap. The flat back bit is the bit that's going to go to the wrong side of the handle. And you're going to pop that over the top. So there is a little hole in the center where that sticky out bit is. Can I zoom in anymore? Oh no. Right, okay, so where that sticky out bit is, there is a little hole. If I pull that away, you can see there's a little hole in that center. That thumbtack pin is meant to go over that hole. My pliers are a little bit, as you can hear, they quack like ducks. Right, so my pliers, you've got a rubbery bit here, and you've got a cap. That cap's hollowed out. You might be able to see it a little bit there. That's where the cap will sit. So when I say the cap, that's this bit here. That sits in the black cap area. And then that spongy part will sit right on top of the actual pin area. And that's on the male or the female part. You're going to make sure everything's clicked into place so you're not crushing or snapping the snap, and you're just going to squeeze it, guys. And that's in place. So what has actually happened is that little pin that came through that little hole there has split and basically pressed into place and closed up that hole. And that means that that completely is in place. So I'm going to repeat that one more time for the male part. So I'm going over to the to a second set. So I've got a second set here. I'm going to get one male part and one thumbtack, and I'm going to put that female part over with this female part. So I've got two sets of female parts here, off camera there. Going to repeat this whole process. So pop the thumbtack bit through that hole there, and it comes through to the wrong side. Get the male part over that thumbtack bit, rest the cap inside that little cup, and close this off. There you go. Right, so you're going to close this up again, roll this over, and you're going to kind of now lift it up on the corners and work out where the holes need to go on this bit. So I'm working on the right side of this handle keeper, and I'm just going to work out where the middle of the male part is. So, and then I'm just popping a little mark on, like so. And now you're going to poke 2 holes through that bit there. So just move your handles out of the way and poke 2 holes through that part. Okay, so this time your thumbtack part, that's the bit with the pin, is going to go from the inside. So this is still the wrong side of the actual handle, and we're going to pop that right up through that hole, coming out to the front of the actual handle keeper. And then you're going to get the female. Now the female, we want the dimple to be pointing out, and then you are going to pop that over the hole, pop the cap, black bit, the cup area underneath, so you got that cap into place. I'm just going to move it slightly, there you go. The sponge hold in the female and squeeze it. I just finished the binding on one half of the bag. Sometimes I just need the company to get... Yeah, Joanne, its binding is Right, so there's two things that people fear about bag making: binding and zips. Once you've got mastered the zips, you can master binding. Honestly, binding is so easy, and there is so many tricks out there. There's, like I said, the wash away tape, the glue, hand stitching. If your machine's not coping, there is so many tricks out there now that people have come up with. It's just unbelievable. The community in the sewing area can be a bit nasty in certain areas. If you're doing something wrong, they will point it out. But when they're pointing something out to you, they're not saying it in a nasty way. They're probably just saying you probably done it wrong and take the criticism because you might learn from next time. But Joanne, you are right. Once you've got someone holding your hand, got the company, you can do it. Right, so I've just basically, while I was talking, I put the cap on and the female part, and then I'm just going to click that into place. And I will finish my binding off on camera tonight when my husband is on his Xbox. Let me zoom out. My OCD's kicking in. I've got too many tools out. Does anybody else have OCD? I think I'm on the, well, I know I am on the autistic spectrum because I've been told. So, yeah. Right, so I'm just going to clip that into place. And then that bag, outer bag, is finished once the binding's done. So please ignore the binding, guys. It's done. I'll flip it over from this side. It's done. So that is into place. Let me just go back to the front view camera. So basically that is everything, and it will look like that. Obviously that's my front. The reason why I say the front is because you can see the studs. If you don't want to see the studs, just move that handle keeper where you sewed that box on a bit further underneath. But personally, I like the studs. You can't see it if you're using the Velcro, however. Right, so if you're tuned in right now, please ignore this. Obviously, I'm going to finish it off. It will be nice and neat like this side here. Thank you, Joanne. Right, okay, so if you've basically just come in and want to see the live again, you can rewind it back. If you're watching this back afterwards, please drop a comment below, say how you're enjoying the pattern, if you've got any problems. I know some people have had problems. I honestly will talk you through it. I'm always here. Don't forget there is a 15% discount. That's YouTube, that's the Y and the T in capitals. YouTube 15, don't forget the 15. That will get you 15% off. That ends on the 31st of October. Now, I've had a lot of you message me about Fred's Gang. I am going to do a private, well, I mean, not private, I'm going to do a separate video on how Fred Gang works, what the benefits are, what you get, because the benefits have changed since when I first opened up the Sewing Online group 3 years ago. The club's been going now. There is so much more benefits. You get sub boxes that are worth loads. You get loads of offers. So I am going to talk about that in a separate video. And that separate video will come live at the end of the month. What else? Don't forget I'm on Sewing Street. Yes, I am doing a quilt pattern. If you weren't here on the little gathering at the start, I'm releasing my very first quilt pattern. And I'm also bringing a boxy bag, which is a very small, nice bag to carry around when you're dog walking. Thank you. Yeah, once the hospital treatment's sorted, I will be back doing near enough every week. But unfortunately, my treatment comes first. At the moment, my health has to come first, they've said. Please do. I'd like to know more. Yeah, Fred's Gang, we do a lot in Fred's Gang. We're going through a 6 mini series at the moment. And you do get the patterns either beforehand, or you do get, like this, they've already done this and they had the digital download for free, or they had the paper pattern for a lot cheaper than what you guys will pay, even with your 15% discount. So, oh, thank you. Yeah, quilting is what I used to do when I was little and growing up, and I used to teach it in a quilt shop. I know there's a lot of people out there thinking that I should be just carrying on with bags. However, as I've explained to Fred's Gang, it's not me. It is me. It feeds an addiction for bag collecting. However, it doesn't feed all my sewing addiction. So the bag, it's not just going to be bag making. There was a lot of 3D items coming your way as well. Yeah. And quilts. Not clothes. I will not do clothes. My wedding, that was... I did all the items of clothing for the wedding. No, never again. Never again. I love clothes making as well. Right, okay. So, any questions? Any questions before I go? No? Or have I not given you enough time? Or am I not giving you enough time to write a question and ask a question? Right, okay. Once again, thank you ever so much for joining me today. It's been a short one. Obviously, let me know in the comments if you like the new time at 1:30, because it's a lot easier for me, because obviously it's a rush for when my kids come home and stuff like that. Yeah, there's no questions. Right, okay, I'm gonna go. Thanks ever so much, and I'll see you all soon in the first week of, what month are we in? November. I think I'm good. When will you do the video for Fred's Gang? Fred's Gang will be the end of the month. I'm just sent it off to an editor. I was actually filming it just before I came on here. I've sent it off to an editor. So he does all my editing now, because I just haven't got time to do the editing, because I don't do computers. I don't understand them. So I've got an editor editing the video, and he said it'd be ready by the end of the month. I will pop it all in all over social media on how to join Fred's Gang. We have got quite a few spaces opened up recently, due to they've learned what they needed to do on bag making. However, it's not just bag making no more. It's a multiple of sewing. And you do get a lot of patterns and a lot of freebies. Right, okay, so I'll see you all soon, and I'll see you all in, is it 3 weeks' time? Yeah, 3 weeks' time. Have a lovely time, and see you all soon. No, this one, no. I'm not used to this computer. See ya.